Winter is here, at least meteorological winter. We've got the alerts on the map here with winter weather advisories and even winter storm warnings in those higher elevations, stretching from New York all the way to northeastern Maine. And also, we're talking about a few flakes flying as you get out the door this morning. We'll check on travel conditions. And this is just the start. We've got another Clipper system and then another system after that we will be tracking in the week ahead. Plus, there's the warmth. It's certainly not going to be feeling like December at all with these kinds of temperatures. Very balmy. In fact, by Friday, we're talking 174 million of us with above average temperatures. I would not be surprised if we got close to some records. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele and Jim Cantori. Jim, I know you're going to talk about the snow in the Northeast, but we also had a bit of severe weather, especially western PA and even parts of New York.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Carolina Sugar Mountain opened for skiing a few days ago, but unfortunately they've been getting rain and warmer temperatures now. So let's do a little comparison. Let's show you what we did last year. This was November 30th of 2022. You can see the snowpack around the Great Lakes. Upstate New York did pretty good. Look at western Texas. We had quite a bit of snow even down here into Midland with more than a half an inch. Now, this is November 30th of this year. So just basically last week where we didn't see much going down toward the southern plains, although there has been some snow in Kansas and Oklahoma, and certainly not as much across upstate New York. Places like Buffalo and Rochester, we have been lacking so far this year with only 2.3 inches in Buffalo, 2 inches in Grand Rapids. Marquette, that might sound like a lot, 8.4, but for you guys, that is still below average where you should be. All right, so here's a look at the stats comparing last year to this year. Over here, this is last year. Buffalo, we had 36.9 up to this point in the year. So far this year, 2.3. Marquette, you know, we've only had 8.4, but last year we were up to 40.9. Bismarck, Spokane, also looking at snowfall differences by a lot less this year. All these dots represent where we've had our first measurable snow of the year. Those flurries that you had in Central Park a few days ago, they don't count. That was not measurable snow. So still 0 for the season. New York City, Philly, down to D.C., even Boston, we are down 1.3. In fact, all the arrows, if you look at upstate New York and New England, yes, we have had some snow, but we're still a little bit below where we should be. New York, Philadelphia, we are into a record streak right now when it comes to our last inch of snow. Going back to February 13th, 2022, that was our last inch in New York City. Philadelphia, same year, January of 2022. And you can see Baltimore and D.C., our snowless streak continues. And you can see that we've observed so far, or last year actually, we did okay in some of these areas, but we were kind of lacking that coastal low, Jordan. Remember those nor'easters? We just didn't get them last year. So We'll see what happens this year.
Come on already. Bring
it allows us to see these northern lights. All right, let's bring the plane in and talk about the fact that we do not have any delays, at least not yet today. But we'll be checking on some of these airports, especially the smaller regional ones in the Northeast where de-icing, snow removal could cause some delays there. Otherwise, it's all about SeaTac on the West Coast and even Portland, where we could have a few delays out there. There will be some wind along the coastline. Tampa, we saw about a half an inch of rain yesterday. It was pouring at the Bucks game. There's the possibility of more delays today, although the rain is moving out. Boston, a few delays. Looking good, though, for the busiest airports of Atlanta and Chicago. Let's check on some of the road conditions and see what's happening out there. By the way, the fog has been really bad. Over the weekend, we had thick fog, and it continues on this Monday morning. You can see the dense fog advisories in effect from southern Georgia, Alabama, all the way down the Florida coastline. So make sure you have those low beams on. If you're going to be out there traveling, give yourself a little extra time. Leave now if you can. If it's a little bit early, that would be best because you can see the fog is reducing visibility down to about a quarter mile in some of these spots. The darker gray indicating that on this map. The fog will be clearing out, though, by about 9 or 10 o'clock, and then we'll see improving conditions. Here in the Northeast, we do have some light snow falling right along the New York-Canadian border. Messina picking up 3 inches of snow. Gaylord picking up 4 inches in Michigan. And the snow continues to come down in Maine. Northeastern Vermont picking up 9 inches of that heavy, wet snow. By the way, 10,000 customers in Maine without power due to this heavy, wet snow. So be careful. A lot of the traffic lights might not be working this morning. Jim?
Oof. Happening during the overnight in Chicago. That's the first thing we'll deal with tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for Chicago, we haven't really had a good snow in a while. But, I mean, we had that snow on Halloween and then a little bit after that. But
actually, who has the most... When's the last time New York and Chicago had a 6-inch snowfall?
Oh, gosh, for New York, even just 1 inch, you have to go back to 2022.
So it's at least 650
yeah, before
days.
that, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Crazy
And these temperatures are not helping us at all either, by the way.
No, they're not.
We are flirting with records in quite a few spots here. All these dots represent where we could either tie or break record warmth during the day or even overnight lows. They're going to be on the warm side as well. So it's all starting up here in the west with that ridge building. We've been talking about the Pacific Northwest with the snow melt, avalanche danger as well. Rivers are rising rapidly with the rainfall because temperatures are going to be above average. A place like Portland, we should be in the low 50s. We're going to be about 60 degrees for today. As you can see, though, these are some spots where we could get close to records, if not exceed them. Phoenix getting close with 81 degrees. Seattle, 56, almost your record high of 58 degrees. You can see Missoula, Montana, you're about 50 degrees. And by the way, that other 50 goes back to 1896. So that's a long-standing record. Salem, Eugene, also looking at the above average temperatures. So again, it starts here in the west with 60 degrees in Denver. That's running about 10, 15 degrees above where you should be for the middle of December, even down toward the southern plains. 63 degrees in Dallas, 61 Oklahoma City. And eventually we'll spread this warmth to the middle of the country, right here in the Midwest, the northern plains. Where you see the pink on the map, we're going 25 degrees above average. That's why we're talking about some of these records being threatened here in Nebraska, South Dakota, low 60s. This is definitely not right for this time of the year. Waterloo, Iowa, if we get to 57, that will beat out your old record of 56 degrees. And that also is a long-standing record. So by Thursday, a lot more of us will be dealing with the warmth, and that will continue to progress toward the east. Well, heavy. Let's go traveling on this Monday morning. I've got some good news. No delays as of right now that we can blame on the weather. However, later today, there could be issues with the dense fog that we have in some parts of the south, as well as the snow delays in New England. We've got snow coming down in parts of Vermont, some of those smaller regional airports, Albany up towards Burlington, and even into Maine. That is where we could have some slight delays. And you can see the snow filling in most of the state of Maine. By the way, 10,000 customers without power this morning. It's a very heavy, wet, gloppy snow that's been coming down. Dense fog advisories in effect here in Minnesota, portions of Iowa and South Dakota, so make sure you got the low beams on if you're doing any traveling on Interstate 80. Chicago, interesting forecast for us. We have rain to start, but then later tonight we'll get that cold air coming in with the next Clipper system, changing rain over to snow, maybe some minor accumulation, but we're really not calling for a lot with this Clipper. That purple indicating that rain snow line, and there's that blue. It's very brief, though. It's mainly during the morning hours. Could cause some delays, though, at O'Hare and Midway, so definitely check ahead. But it is out of here by tomorrow afternoon. Another airport to check for today is St. Louis, as well as in Kentucky around Covington, the Cincinnati airport. We could see some delays as well. Jordan?
Well, after the
hopping, what took place here over the weekend? Certainly on Saturday, it was a wet time. New Orleans getting record rain, by the way, both Friday and Saturday. So we still have a deficit, but at least we got some welcome rain. Tallahassee, we're still down less than an inch for the year after getting a couple of inches over the weekend. And then Tampa. Did anybody watch that Buccaneers game yesterday? They were playing in the pouring rain. It was really coming down. And at least they won over the Panthers. But here's a look at some of those reports, especially in the Panhandle. I mean, we're talking about a half a foot, even 9 inches of rain in some of these areas. And that's why we saw some problems with flooded roads. Tonight's football game, by the way, is in Jacksonville, where there will be a couple of showers out there. It's not like we need the rain on the east side of Florida. It's all needed right here on the Sun Coast, where we still have extreme drought conditions. We put a big dent in it, though, over the Panhandle of Florida with all the rain that we saw over the weekend. All right, Tallahassee, after the weekend, we are in for some pretty good days ahead. You've got bright sunshine Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, looking great for doing your Christmas shopping, maybe holiday decorating. Next chance for showers here in the state capital will be on Sunday with those temperatures in the mid-60s. And you can see the next 5 days, it is all about the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia, Alabama. That's where we have the best chance for the rainfall. As you can see today, some of this moving onshore, a little bit of fog, especially on the West Coast. Dense fog advisories in effect. Temperatures in the low to mid 70s as we head toward the afternoon hours, but kind of coolish. I would say sweater weather here in the Florida Panhandle, Jim, with those highs in the mid 60s.
A little bit. Did you feel like you got ripped off this weekend with the rainfall for Atlanta?
Yeah, I didn't get much at my house.
You know why? Because they got it all in the Panhandle.
They got it on the Panhandle.
That happens
exactly.
all the time.
Winter has arrived, at least to New England and upstate New York. We have winter weather advisories and even winter storm warnings in effect for some of you, stretching from northern New York all the way up into Maine, where another few to several inches of snow are possible. In fact, the flakes are already flying as you head out the door this morning. We'll check on those travel conditions. Plus, this is just the start. We are tracking a clipper and then a late week storm system as well. We'll break it all down just ahead. And it's feeling a little warm for Christmas to be just 21 days away. It is balmy out here. Look at the millions of us experiencing the above average temperatures. In fact, by Friday, 174 million above average. We could be flirting with records in some cases. This is America's Morning Headquarters. We're glad you're joining us. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass, alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele and Jim Cantori. Jim, yesterday in the Northeast, we had some snow, but we also had some thunderstorms lighting up the sky out there.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Quickly, don't they? Don't drop a whole lot, but they move fast and bring wind, too. All right, since December is still in progress, we're still racking up the snow, especially in the Northeast. We want to compare Novembers. This is November of last year, 2022. At the end of the month, you can see how much snowfall some of these towns and cities picked up, like Denver, 10.9. Look at the snow all the way down, even into western Texas, and some pretty decent snow for a place like Buffalo with about 3 feet. Now compare that to just wrapping up this last November, just about a week ago. We did see some snow in Buffalo, but not nearly the kind of snow that we saw last year, and you can see nothing here in western Texas, and we still had some pretty thick snow for the mountains in the west. In fact, here are the numbers for this November, meaning just this past month. 7.8 Wichita, had a decent snow around Halloween in Denver, and after that we did see a few more inches, 10.4. Minneapolis 3.2, but that's below average. We should be looking at more than that in Buffalo. Look at you with that measly 2.3 inches so far to this point in the season. In fact, you can see 2022 we've had over 3 feet. Marquette, typically a very snowy location, right? In fact, last year it was through November 30th. We had 40.9 inches, so we'll call it about 41 inches. This year so far, 8.4. And you can see Bismarck, Spokane also running well below what we saw just a year ago. All these dots represent where we've had our first measurable snow of the year. We started early, especially in the higher elevations of New England, New York City, Philly, D.C. We're still waiting on it. Those flurries that you had a few days ago in New York City Central Park, that doesn't count. It has to be measurable snow. And therefore, you see all the arrows pointing down, meaning we are below average when it comes to snowfall since the beginning, since September 1st. Pretty good snow, it looks like anyway, especially for the mountains, but even Burlington with 5 inches, that is still below average. Now, New York and Philly have a record streak going. The last time we had at least an inch of snow was back in January and February of 2022. So, Jim, or Jordan rather, the record streak continues.
Yeah, they just are.
For sure,
right.
There in the Northwest. Right. A quick look now at your Monday morning front lines. Wow. Jordan, I know people here in this country are like, bring it over here. We could use it.
Bring it.
Yeah.
I know.
All right, guys, not so frigid at a lot of the places. Even in the north, there's no de-icing delays going on right now. We do have a bit of snow coming down in northern New England, and even there, temperatures are pretty marginal, so it's a heavy, wet snow that we're tracking in the state of Maine, where we do have thousands without power this morning, even parts of Vermont, about 4,000 customers there. Delays, we could see them at SeaTac in Seattle with the rain pushing in, atmospheric river event one after the other. Tampa, a few delays are possible, but that heavy rain that you saw yesterday, thankfully that is over with. Boston, possible delays. Atlanta, Chicago, the busiest airports in the country, if not the world, are looking good today. So let's see where the fog is causing an issue. I was checking visibility here in Florida. Brooksville, Florida, which is north of the Tampa Bay area, quarter-mile visibility right now. So that means you can barely see right in front of you. That's why the Weather Service issues these dense fog advisories. They're in effect from southeastern Alabama, southern Georgia, all the way down the west side of Florida. Visibility for the most part at the bigger airports like Tampa, Orlando, not so bad, between 5 and 10 miles, but still slow it down, leave a little extra early, leave a little extra space between you and the driver in front of you, and always have the low beams on, not the bright beams, because that light will just reflect back in your face. All right, we've got the snow coming down in Maine, still a good chunk of the state of Maine, actually, into the northern parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, Adirondacks of New York. Messina picking up about 4 inches, actually. There's that purple around the Finger Lakes region, looking at more of a wintry mix, rain and snow. Otherwise, the big cities on the 95 corridor are still snowless, not seeing much snow at all last year or this year so far. And it's all about the rain here in the Pacific Northwest, where rivers could be rising and flash flooding will be a problem over the next few days, Jim.
All right, stick around. Not rather deal with.
I
all
never
three of
heard
them
of the
bring
other.
similar
Alberta
weather.
Clipper seems to be the more common one, though.
Well, it is, right?
Yeah.
It kind of forms east of the Canadian Rockies,
Right.
and comes down from Alberta. So that is the most common.
By the way, you know that movie, A Year Without Santa Claus, that cartoon movie? Heat Miser,
yes,
Freeze
yes.
Miser. Who do you think's winning, Heat Miser or Freeze Miser, when you look at this map?
I think Heat Miser's got some dominant stuff going on there. They need to make a deal.
Yeah.
Either that or you're going to call Mother Nature, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that what they did to settle
call
the battle?
Mother Nature to settle
That's right.
it. But yeah, we do have a lot of dots on this map representing where we could tie or break records. That's how warm it's going to be. Starting in the west, Big Ridge here over the Rockies into the plains. Denver, Colorado, 57 degrees, 61 Dodge City, even 48 degrees in Omaha. That's a pretty good deal for this time of the year. We are above average in the southwest and even the northern Rockies. Missoula, Montana, if we get to 50, that's enough to tie 50 degrees back in 1896. So talk about a long-standing record there. Moab, Utah, getting up to 51 tomorrow. We're running anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees above average. That's why we're so concerned about melting snow, leading to avalanche danger, rivers rising in the Pacific Northwest as well. And, of course, you've got the heavy rain coming in as well. All right, we're going to be seeing that heat move into the Central Plains as we head towards Wednesday. And then on Thursday, it just continues. We see more records that are threatened in Lincoln, Nebraska, 63, 61 in Omaha. If we get there, that ties a record from way back in 1918. And it doesn't stop there. It continues to push eastward. Note the temperatures across the lower Ohio Valley. You're going to start to feel that warmth as well, looking at above average readings by Thursday. In fact, by the end of the week, 170 million of us will be above average, 174 to be exact. So, yeah, definitely not feeling like 21 days till Christmas at this point. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back on this Monday, trying to get to school, get to work. You've got snow to deal with in upstate New York and parts of New England. And we've also got a heavy rain event that's going to be ongoing pretty much this whole entire week. Seattle, Portland, those are the airports to check ahead. But otherwise, no delays right now. Those green bubbles mean we are good to go so far. There's your light snow coming down in and around Burlington, but right down toward Lake Champlain. It's mixing with raindrops, but we have seen a pretty decent heavy wet snow in portions of northeastern Vermont into Maine. Some areas seeing 9 inches of snow, and unfortunately it is a heavy wet snow, and that's leading to some power outages. So some of those traffic lights may not be working this morning. Use the low beams. If you're traveling here in the upper Midwest, we have dense fog advisories for many counties of Minnesota, down into western Iowa, and a sliver of southeastern South Dakota as well, where the visibility may at times dip below a half a mile. And you can see Chicago kind of right on the edge of that snow. If we're lucky, we'll get some snow, but really it's about the timing with that cold air and the moisture. Right now we're not calling for a lot, though. In fact, it will start off as rain at O'Hare and Midway, and then we'll go over to snow briefly as we head into Tuesday morning's commute. But this is a clipper system, meaning it gets out of here pretty quickly. Guys, over to you.
Well, back west.
And yes, we did need the rain in many of these areas like Tallahassee, getting some much needed moisture. Starting the clock Saturday, it continued into Sunday morning as well, reaching all the way into Jacksonville. You've got Tampa to Orlando, Daytona Beach. By the way, that Buccaneers game I was watching for a little while yesterday afternoon, it was pouring. Officially at the airport, only about a half an inch of rain, but we're still down like 14 inches in Tampa. We still need more rain. But this is where it's all been, right here along the I-10 corridor, Florida Panhandle. We had as much as 5 to 9 inches of rain. Bristol picking up about a half a foot of rainfall. So that led to some of the flooding issues that we saw on some of the roadways. There's your bullseye showing right there, the orange and even embedded red, where we had over 8 inches of rain. Southern Florida didn't see a whole lot of action, which is good. We don't need it over here, especially Miami, Fort Lauderdale, but we do need it right there in Tampa. The Suncoast still looking at extreme drought conditions. As I mentioned, we're down 14 inches for the year in Tampa Bay. So here's a look at our forecast for the state capital, Tallahassee. We see clouds for you today, especially the fog. It's a little thick this morning, but then we break out into sunshine throughout the rest of this week. If you're doing any holiday shopping or putting up the decorations outside your home, by Sunday, that's our next chance of rain, and temperatures will be in the mid-60s. So again, the next 5 days, it is all about Tallahassee westward to Pensacola and Destin. Not seeing a whole lot of action down here toward the beaches in South Florida. So if you're on vacation here, you're in for some good weather for the most part, Jim.
Yeah, this next...
Well, winter is here, at least meteorological winter. You see the advisories, the warnings on the map here. We are seeing the snow this morning from upstate New York into Maine. It's going to pile up, especially in parts of Maine. But as you can see, the flakes are flying this morning. That could affect your travel plans. So we will track the snow today. Also, we're talking about wet weather and warm weather over the next couple of days. So we are going to start to see those balmy temperatures, certainly not feeling like we're 21 days away from Christmas. As you can see, look at this. Millions of us above average. In fact, by Friday, 174 million above average. So much above so that we could be flirting with records in many spots. You're watching America's Morning Headquarters. Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele and Jim Cantori. Jim, you excited about the snow in the Northeast?
I am, for my friends.
We just wrapped up the month of November just last week. We want to do a little comparison between November of last year to what we just experienced. This is November 30th, 2022. You can see some cities and towns, how much snow we got. In Minneapolis, it was over a foot. How about Buffalo, picking up about 3 feet of snow? And that snow goes all the way down into the Davis Mountains of western Texas. Bismarck, 21.3. And now this year, November 30th, 2023, yes, there is some purple on the map. We saw some pretty good snow across the Rockies and even across upstate New York and New England, but Buffalo really lacking this year. I mean, only 2.3 inches there. Grand Rapids is down. Marquette, typically a very snowy location. We've barely seen anything this year. In fact, last time it was 40.9 in Marquette. This November, it was 8.4 inches of snow. So yes, we are definitely lacking it in places like Bismarck, Spokane, only 1.6 so far this year. So all these dots on the map represent where we've had our first measurable snow of the year. Can't put any dots on the 95 corridor. In fact, we haven't been able to do that for a couple of years now, unfortunately. But yes, a few flurries, they don't even count. It has to be measurable snow. And we did see it in Albany. We've seen some snow in Burlington, but note the arrows are going in the downward direction. Syracuse, so far this year, we've seen 5.5 inches, but we're down 6.5 inches, or practically 7. So for New York and Philadelphia, we are in the midst of a record streak in terms of the last inch of snowfall that we've gotten. You've got to go back to my son's birthday, actually, February 13th, 2022. That was when we had our last inch in New York City. For Philadelphia, it's actually before that, January of the same year, 2022. So we're going to keep it going. We really don't see snow in the future, at least not this week. We'll have to see what happens the rest of the season. But observed here, this was last year. We had about a foot of snow in Boston, New York 2.3, Philadelphia not even an inch. So maybe we'll do better than last year, Jordan. But of course, a lot of people who love the snow, they were not happy about it.
I'm waiting for a big nor'easter.
Melt definitely means problems there. Well, let's check on your Monday morning front lines. We go overseas to surface. That's how you get that expression, right, Jordan? Tip of the iceberg.
You're right. All right.
Welcome back to America's Morning Headquarters. We're doing some flying this morning. If you are, pretty good conditions overall, despite the weather that we're watching. We got some snow in parts of upstate New York, New England. Some of those smaller regional airports may be affected by de-icing and snow removal. We got some heavy rain pushing through parts of the Ohio Valley. And then it's the fog. I'm going to show you what a problem that is, especially down into Florida, a place like Tampa, where we could see some delays. Even a ground stop is possible. Seattle, it is all about the rain. And it's all week long, by the way, for SeaTac. Boston, Atlanta, not experiencing too many issues out there. We did see some rain yesterday, and Chicago looks like a good flying day overall. All right, the fog is an issue here. I mean, it is thick, like pea soup in the Tampa Bay area. Check it out. And then that will go away just in time for this afternoon. These dense fog advisories do include that west side of Florida, southern Florida, into southern parts of Georgia and Alabama. And checking on the visibilities, I mentioned quarter mile in Tampa, but it's also quarter mile in places like Gainesville, Florida, and it's pretty thick in parts of southern Georgia right along that I-75 corridor. The top of I-95 here in Maine, it's all about the snow. We've got 24,000 customers without power now in the state of Maine. It is a heavy, wet snow weighing down some of the tree branches out there. We've also seen some outages in northern Vermont, closing in on 8-9 inches of snow. New York State Thruway, it's kind of a wintry mix here going through the Finger Lakes region. And here in the west, it is all about the warmer temperatures, the heavy rain leading to rivers rising and the potential for some flooding here.
Yeah, Kelly, that map speaks volumes. Look, there's no snow in the Cascades.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
snow levels are way high.
They're way high, and that means we're going to melt all the system. But late week could be even more interesting in this neck of the woods.
We need to get the cold air back in here, though. Right?
We do need the cold air, I think, and we're going to have a little bit of that toward the weekend, but we'll see if we got enough.
By the way, that heavy wet snow, it's a workout trying to ski on that. It's like mashed potatoes trying to turn.
It is, but you know what? Early season, get the legs moving, right?
Yeah, that's true. Got to get into shape.
Get them in shape. Yeah.
All right, we are talking about record warmth across the country. Every dot on this map represents where we could tie or break records, not just the daytime highs, but even the overnight lows. They are not going to be be that low at all because of this pattern that we're in. We've got this ridge in the west. That's where the warmth is starting out, but then eventually we'll spread that warmth to the east coast by the end of the week. So temperatures, you can see Twin Falls, Idaho, 51 degrees. That is definitely above average. 49 in Rapid City, South Dakota, 48 degrees in Omaha. And we got the 60s from Dodge City, Kansas, all the way down through the southern plains of Oklahoma and Texas. And into the southwest, we could be flirting with records tomorrow. Phoenix, oh, so close. 81 degrees. That's within one of your record highs. Seattle, 56 degrees. Salem, Oregon. If we get to 59, that's enough to tie your record. So tomorrow you can see the temperatures really warming up, especially in the Pacific Northwest. So we're calling for a lot of rain, not so much snow. And that's going to lead to the snow melt, the heavy rain that could lead to flooding. 15, 25 degrees above average. Check out Denver by Wednesday. We're mid-60s. And even around Kansas City, we're going to start to feel that warmth as we head towards midweek. By Thursday, it's Nebraska, South Dakota, parts of Iowa, and even Marquette, Michigan. If we get to 43, which is what we're forecasting, even that is enough for a new record by Thursday. So note the temperature is warming up throughout the Ohio Valley, 15, 25 degrees above average. When you get into that category, you know you're going to be flirting with some records. Tuesday, Wednesday into Friday, 174 million above average. Well, welcome back for a look at travel. I just checked on the airports. We got Houston Hobby experiencing a ground stop. That's due to maintenance on the runway. Also, Albuquerque, New Mexico, there's some de-icing going on there as well. No delay just yet, but sometimes that can slow down the aircraft. Otherwise, we are good. Flying-wise, Chicago, the northeastern airports, despite the snow that is coming down. I do want to point out, though, this is a heavy wet snow. Here in Maine, we have more than 25,000 customers that are currently without power. So unfortunately, it sounds like there are some branches coming down on top of power lines. Even Vermont has been experiencing some outages this morning as well. Then there's the fog. It is thick in quite a few spots in the country, including right here in the upper Midwest. We've got counties in Minnesota, here into northwestern Iowa, still under a dense fog advisory through later this morning. And Chicago, we're waiting on some snow by tonight. We got to have some colder air come in first, though. So we're going to start with the rain, then we'll mix with snow. That's the purple on the map. And then by your commute tomorrow morning, there's your blue showing up, and that means snow for O'Hare, Midway, maybe some de-icing delays as you start off your day on Tuesday, but then going back over to rain and then coming to an end. It's a fast-moving Clipper-type system. Then it's all about down here across the Ohio Valley, where the rain may cause some problems, not just at the airports, but on the roadways between St. Louis and over towards Kentucky and parts of Indiana. There could be some rain making things rather slick on the road in front of you. And for tomorrow, we've got the yellow on the map indicating a low to medium chance of weather-related delays. So we've got Chicago, as I just mentioned, you got that quick bout of snow all the way through Detroit and Cleveland, where de-icing could also cause a slowdown at the airports depending on temperature. Otherwise, it's wet weather for Cummington, Kentucky, which is the Cincinnati airport. So we could see some potential delay programs put into effect or even a ground stop depending on how bad the weather happens to get over these airports. So again, we're going to be tracking these Clipper systems moving very quickly across the region. That does usher in some of that colder air, but really in the meantime, most of the country is going to be experiencing above average temperatures over the next several days. So enjoy that. It's definitely unusual for December to be feeling this kind of warmth, guys.
Absolutely.
We're back up to 3 miles. We were quarter mile last hour. So this is the way it played out over the weekend. This was what happened. Northern Florida especially getting hit hard with the showers, the thunderstorms, winds gusting 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. Tallahassee, we needed the rain, and boy, did we get it. We still have a slight deficit, though. But as you can see, not too far from Tallahassee, you had 9 inch reports. Look at the orange showing up on this map. We've got 5.44 in Buckhorn, Bethel, 9 inches, Bristol, a half a foot of rainfall. So that is what led to the flooding problems that we saw on many of the roads that go off of I-10. So it's northern Florida where we saw the bulk of the action. Hardly anything from I-4 southward down towards Miami, which is a good thing. We don't really need the rain on the east side of Florida, especially Miami and Fort Lauderdale, but we do need it in Tampa. We only picked up just under a half an inch of rain yesterday at the airport. Most of that rain coming down during the Buccaneers game. It was pouring out there, but we're still down 14 inches. So we still have extreme drought conditions on the sun coast of Florida. For Tallahassee, it is the fog this morning giving way to just partly cloudy skies, and then the sunshine all the way through the week, even into Saturday, looking great for any holiday parties that you might have doing your shopping. Sunday is our next chance for rain with temperatures in the mid-60s. And you can see the bulk of the rainfall will be across the panhandle, but not nearly as much rain as we saw over this past weekend, Jim.
Which may get us more